Okay, so we know that things are obviously starting to get out of hand. We know that when the National Convention is created, that they, make France a republic, which means that they no longer need Louis the 16th. So he's just an average citizen, and we know that ultimately that's going to result in him being executed on the guillotine. And what's going to happen here on January 21st, 1793, is they'll put Louis on trial for treason for all of these things that he has done. And then they ultimately set like a very public execution date. And you have to understand, it's not unusual to execute people publicly. That's been going on forever. But what we see happening in the execution of Louis the 16th is really kind of outrageous. They basically like build almost like a stadium for people to come and to watch this. Now, watching executions in this style in France was starting to become more popular. We're going to talk about that more today. But there were some guesses that there were 40 to 50,000 people that could just sit around the actual platform of the guillotine and watch this. So when he is executed, we know that this revolution has just taken things to a whole nother level. We now have seen the people rise up, overtake things, and then publicly execute a king. This sends like shockwaves kind of all over Europe. And we know that Austria and Prussia were already really concerned about this. We know that there was, this fear they had that something terrible was going to happen. Well, now it's happened, okay? And what we see here are angry mobs of people, like clubs, political clubs, actually like dominating this revolution. And again, we're going to get to that more today. But what happens is Austria and Prussia see a problem here. And if these people are willing to go through such lengths as to execute the king, really nothing is, off guard. So like nothing is off limits, I should say. So what happens is a couple things. First of all, the guillotine, right, which is what we know he was executed on, and we're going to talk about more. What happens here is Prussia, along with Austria, basically gains allies after the king has been executed. So countries like Great Britain, Holland, Spain, they all join Austria and Prussia, and they call themselves the First Coalition. And that's important, okay? They come together and call themselves the First Coalition, and their goal is to stop the revolution from progressing any more in France. Well, of course, the National Convention is going to have to do something about this, because these big countries, which have monarchs, by the way, have just openly kind of declared war on them. So the National Convention then kind of kicks back and says, oh, okay, so like we're all going to war now? Well, I guess we need to build an army. So what happens is the National Convention actually opens or creates like the draft, where they just started to randomly choose different citizens to fight in the French military. Initially, they will draft 300,000 men. They had to be between the ages of 18 and 40. And then within a year, that army will grow to over 800,000 soldiers. And they were even allowing women to participate and fight alongside these men. Ironically enough, we know that women weren't always really respected in this revolution. I mean, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen did not apply to them. They were often considered kind of like counterintuitive in terms of what the revolution was seeking, but they are the ones who ultimately ended up, kidnapping the king and queen to begin with. So we've got a bit of a mess here. Not only do we have like the internal part of France just starting to absolutely get crazy, but now we have all these external things as well. So we have all these other countries who are stepping in. This First Coalition has come together to stop anything else from happening in this. And again, the First Coalition are a bunch of monarchs who are coming together and saying, we cannot let this happen in our own countries. We have to do something to stop this.